From minor inconveniences to full-on catastrophes, what do you do when disaster strikes during a vacation? Today, we're looking at everything from losing your passport to figuring out your rights if the plane gets stuck on that tarmac. Joining us is travel expert Lauren Christie. This is all great news we can use headed into the next couple of months. Let me begin by, people have done, this happens, you show up at your hotel and you've got a booking there and they say, sorry, there's no reservation or you don't have a room. Right.
So, I mean, if you actually have no confirmation with you and they have no record, you're kind of out of luck. There's no record saying you'd been there, so if they'll hopefully give you a room and whatever rate the going rate is. If you do have a confirmation, but they don't, that's where things slightly change. Okay. So if you have a record that you were supposed to be there, they should honor it and give you the room at the rate that you had booked it on. But if the room is gone, which hotels sometimes get oversold, technically what they should be doing is they should be offering you alternative accommodation, paying for that accommodation until they can bring you back to the hotel, and paying for the transportation to and from.
And the transportation, okay, that makes sense.
Often they will. And then, the free night is the night that you get all off-site, but then you have to pay once you get there. But I always say, before you go, always confirm your reservation at the hotel. Yeah. And if they say, would you like to guarantee your booking with a credit card? Do it, especially if you think you're going to have a late arrival. It's just better safe than sorry.
Bring that confirmation number.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so we hear this a lot in the news, people getting stuck on the tarmac and what their rights are or aren't.
Yeah, and you know what? And it changes from country to country. And I brought the Canadian domestic tariff just to read it so I get the language quite right. If the passenger is already on the aircraft when a delay occurs and it is safe and practical and there is adequate time to do so, the carrier will, 1, offer drinks and snacks, and 2, if the delay exceeds 90 minutes, the aircraft will return to the gate to provide passengers the option to disembark. So I think that's the part that we all have in our mind. 90 minutes, why didn't they give us drinks and snacks? But safe, adequate, and practical to do so, that's pretty open and subjective.
It sure is.
And, so really your rights are very minimal because when it happens, often what the airline will say, and it's true, it's often out of their hands. It's the airport that controls who has access to the gates, the queue for takeoff. So often if an airline is in a queue to take off on the tarmac, it's pretty hard to turn around and go back to a gate that may not be available. Mm-hmm. It's also hard to wheel out the drink cart because if the drink cart is halfway down the aisle and they're like, okay, ready for takeoff, legally they can't take off. Right. So it's a really tough predicament. That 90 minutes has been ingrained a little bit, and I think they do try to aim toward that, but there are still some stories out there that we all hear about hours sitting on a tarmac, and there's not much you can do about it.
Oh boy. Okay, so and this has happened to me. You lost or stolen passport.
Yeah, so with this one, obviously if you're at home, just go to the passport office. But if you're abroad and traveling, contact the nearest Government of Canada passport office, and then you have 2 choices. Mm-hmm. Either you return home and you're planning to return back to Canada, and they can pretty much turn around a temporary travel document for you in 24 to 48 hours. It's pretty quick. But if you're in the middle of a trip and you're continuing on through several other countries, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait it out. They can expedite it, but they do need to do a full investigation as to why the passport is gone, lost or stolen, or whatever the case may be, and go through, the normal process for getting a passport with the guarantor, the pictures, and all that stuff. So it's a bit of a pain. One thing I would say there, too, is always bring, and I always do it, a photocopy of your passport with you and leave one at home with someone that you can reach because it will help expedite things if you have all that information there.
Oh, good idea to do that. Okay. So, this, unfortunately, this does happen. Somebody gets lost, passes away, dies, something happens like that catastrophically on vacation.
Yeah, and it does happen. Again, if someone passes away when you're out of the country, the first thing to do is follow the local regulations for registering the death and absolutely get a local death certificate.
While you're there.
While you're there. You will need that to register the death back in Canada. So you have to do that and follow the local regulations. Consular services, they'll provide advice, they'll contact relatives, but that's about all they do. So I would also recommend get a local funeral home, get a funeral home in Canada, have them hook up and do a lot of the legwork for you. It's an expensive proposition, but unfortunately there's not a lot else you can do. And just make sure that, if you have insurance, great, cover it, and if not, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, just some general tips you've got for before people even leave their house.
Yeah, I mean, people are not prepared usually when they go on vacation. It's fun, right? But prepare for the worst. It seems sort of grim, but prepare for the worst. So get full insurance, get all the vaccinations you need to do, leave the bling at home. You don't need to be traveling. All those things that could happen, just leave it at home. Bring emergency numbers with you. It takes 2 minutes. Department of Foreign Affairs, your emergency travel provider, all those things, have them handy, and then make copies of everything. You take a copy with you. You leave a copy at home with someone who had it. I was in Panama a couple months ago, and a woman, I thought, genius. She had everything on her phone. But then when she lost her phone on day 2 of the trip, she had nothing, and she had not sent any of the files to anyone back home. And she literally was planning to travel for 3 months and was going to go back home to Vancouver because she had nothing.
And there goes the trip.
And there goes the trip.
Oh, boy.
So
okay.
make copies, soft or hard, it doesn't matter, but someone who can send you the information.
Great advice, Lauren. Thank you. Happy travel season.
Thanks.
All right.